Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. As you are aware, we released a preliminary report on the Chicago Transit Authority's Yellow Line train collision with the snow removal machine this morning, and that preliminary report provides some factual information. It does not contain analysis, and I'm sure there's a number of questions about both the preliminary report and then our ongoing work. I will say we issue a preliminary report that lays out factual information. Over the course of the next several weeks and months, we will be collecting additional factual information. And at some point, we'll return. We'll then move on to the analysis phase of the investigation, and then moving into the final report stage. So with that, I will just go right to questions.
Okay, Sabrina, we have unmuted your microphone. If you would like to ask your question, please identify your outlet as well.
Sorry, I think my microphone was still muted. Can you hear me now?
That's okay. We can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. My name is Sabrina. I work for CBS in Chicago. I wanted to ask for any information that you're able to provide on the timeline of when the operator knew that there was a snow machine plow on the tracks, because it said in the preliminary report something to the effect of they knew where it was there, but not where it was. Anything that we can learn about why that was?
So that's not unusual in these transit operations. They will know, the operator itself will know what is on the track and that there is snow removal equipment in this particular instance. And so, but they would not know specifically where on the track that will be. The signal system was designed so that it would stop the train or signal to stop the train if the operator went past the signal and for some reason didn't slow the train, it would begin to stop the train. But in this case, as in many cases in transit, you would not know the specific area or where in the mileage that that snow equipment would be. It's not unusual.
So if I could just ask a follow-up question, does that mean that the signal equipment wasn't working properly if it didn't stop the train in time?
No. So just to sort of back up and talk about, go back to where we were when I was giving the last press briefing on scene. Rail cars are designed to meet, in this case, Chicago Transit Authority's braking specifications. As mentioned in the preliminary report, it's 4.1 feet per second squared. This signal system at the accident location was configured to allow a stopping distance of 1,780 feet or less. If you were on this, if you were creating the system today, if you were creating if it was a new installation, the signal system would be designed to create a 2,745 foot or less stopping less stopping distance. You would have to provide more stopping distance. And so therefore, we're going to do some testing. This leads us to further testing of the rail cars themselves and the system itself.
Okay, thank you so much, Sabrina. Our next question is going to be from Mitch Armentrout.
Sorry, here we are. Mitch Armentrout from the Sun-Times here. I was curious, has the NTSB requested that the CTA keep the yellow line closed, or is that up to the CTA at this point?
That's up to the CTA. We turned the site over to CTA on November 20th. So now it's CTA's decision on when they will reopen the line.
Thank you, Mitch. Our next question is from Karen Jordan. Karen, if you could please identify your outlet. Your microphone is now unmuted. Hi, Karen, are you able to unmute your microphone? Okay, Karen, if you could email me your question, I will ask it. Our next question is from Sarah Freestat. Sarah, if you could identify your outlet. Okay, Sarah, if you could email me your question, I will ask it. Our next question is from Kate Chappell. Kate, we've unmuted your microphone. You should take a moment and you should unmute it yourself and ask your question.
Hi, this is Kate from NBC Chicago. I'm hoping you can expand a little bit on what you already sort of mentioned, but on the PTC, the system. As I understand it, you've been encouraging CTA, or the NTSB has been encouraging an upgrade of the system as is required by federal law. They had some exemptions due to some finance issues, but is that where you're focusing the investigation the most, or is there still an investigation into possible debris on the tracks as well? Is it equal parts of the investigation so far? Are you leaning more heavily into one than the other? I'm wondering how big of a role that could have played in this. Thank you.
Okay, let me take the last question first. We are an organization that does not rule out anything, especially in the early stages of an investigation. We go very broad. And then at some point during our analysis, we then start focusing into certain specific areas. So right now, let me sort of talk about what the team is going to do and what you can expect. The team expects, if CTA provides all the information that we've requested so far in order to develop our testing protocols, we do require some information from CTA. If we receive all that information, we intend to return the week of December 18th, that's next week. The two rail car train and the snow equipment have been secured in an area on CTA property. We have asked Alstom, the Alstom group, who would be in this case the manufacturer since they bought Bombardier and took over Bombardier just a few years ago. Alstom will be coming to Chicago, where they will meet our team and CTA as team as well, and we will be doing some testing. And just to sort of talk about how we're going to do testing, we are first going to look at the accident train itself. We're going to do a general mechanical inspection. We're going to look at the condition of traction motors. We're going to look at gearboxes, the wheels, the running gear, brake systems. We're also going to examine the condition of the disc brakes and the track brakes. We are going to conduct some testing on the accident train itself. And then we're going to look at some of the testing and the results provided through that testing and do some sort of some comparisons to the event recorder data that we have. And we'll look at other data that we've requested from CTA. From there, we are going to then look at an exemplar Series 5000 train. And we're going to conduct some accident reenactment runs. We will wet the track to see what sort of response we get during braking, to see if we can repeat some of the wheel slippage that we had seen during the braking. And then we will look at the distance for braking. This is something that's pretty common where we might wet the rail or wet the wheel tread. And then getting back to what we're looking at. So we are still looking at this testing of the current system, both the mechanical testing here and looking at the accident train and the 5000 series and exemplar 5000 series train. And we are also still doing laboratory analysis on the organic material that we took samples of. That's not something new for the NTSB. It's actually not something new to transit agencies around the United States where there's, or really passenger and freight rail entities where there's organic material on the track. We have collected that previously in other incidents and done testing, so it's something that we'll do. But we're not focusing right now in any specific areas. We are leaving everything open as we continue our investigation. Your question on PTC. So PTC applied to freight and intercity passenger rail operations in the United States on certain tracks, mainline track, carrying certain materials, certain hazardous materials, or where passengers are transported. In this case, it's toxic by inhalation, hazardous materials, poisonous by inhalation, hazardous materials, and where people are transported. That was in the 2008 law passed by Congress and enacted. In this case, we have recommended train control for CTA in the past. So that's something we will look at as part of this investigation. One thing that has come up a couple of times from the media is, what's the difference here? A real simple way to think about this particular accident is for any transit agency that's using automatic train control. You have to pass a signal system. So the signal system feeds, information to the train through the track. It would send a code that says, in this area of track, it's 55 miles per hour. In this area of track, it's 35 miles per hour. In this area of track, it's 25 miles per hour. And in this case, it went down to 0 at one point. In order to stop the train, a operator needs to respond after it passes a signal. So you have to pass the signal, and then the train operator gets an indication, and then the train operator will slow or stop. If the train operator doesn't do anything in a certain period of time, it's about 2 to 3 seconds, then the train begins to shut down. For positive train control, it's a much more comprehensive system. Positive train control knows where everything is at every single location on the system, not just in a certain area, everything. And the train is talking, it's getting information from different sources. And for a signal, a train with positive train control or communications-based train control, that train would not be able to pass a signal. If the signal saw something was up ahead, there's no way that train with PTC would ever get past that signal. It would stop it well in advance. So it's a much more comprehensive safety system than automatic train control, which is why we have recommended in the past moving away from automatic train control and towards communications-based train control, which is the transit version of PTC. Hopefully that helps. I'm happy to clarify that further if I need to.
Thank you, Chair. We have questions from Karen Jordan, who was unable to answer her question before she emailed me. She said, you mentioned it's up to the CTA to determine when to start running the yellow line. Does that mean the line is safe and there is no residual damage? Oh, sorry. Yes, there is no residual damage.
We are not saying the line is safe. I will say that passenger rail overall is safe, is an extremely safe mode of transportation, much safer than getting in your car on any day and getting to your destination or coming from your destination. In this case, we're still conducting our investigation, so it is up to CTA to ensure the safety of their system. I do know that CTA has taken some actions. They sent us a memo on November 30th which contains some actions that they have taken or will take. We still need to confirm some of these. One of those is they have reduced the maximum allowable speed on the yellow line from 55 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour, and reduced the speed at this particular area of the accident to 25. They are cleaning the rails, the running rails, to remove the debris and organic material that we identified. They have stated they are going to modify their track maintenance program to ensure that that work continues. They are doing what is called manual blocking. So there will be some verbal commands from their control center regarding equipment or the movement of revenue trains, which they believe will enhance safety. They have instituted some additional supervision, and they are beginning a messaging campaign with all operators to ensure everyone is aware of the changes that they are making in the system. They have not indicated any changes to the design or configuration of the system right now. So that is something, again, we are still doing some testing on.
Okay, Chair, I have another question from Sarah Freshdat, who is from the Chicago Tribune, who was unable to get her microphone to work. Her question is, Chair Homendy has said that there was a flaw in the way the signals were designed and the train needs longer to stop than the signals were designed to allow. Who is responsible for setting the 1,780 foot stopping distance? And who would be responsible for updating it? Is it the CTA, the signal company, or is it set by somebody else?
So CTA is responsible for all safety on their property. So CTA sets their signal system. CTA deals with their train performance and train design. They set stopping distance and the configurations of their signal system.
Okay, our next question will come from Claire Savage. Claire, we've unmuted your microphone. You should be able to unmute yours if you could identify your outlet when you ask your question.
Claire Savage, I'm with the Associated Press. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So from my layman read of the preliminary report today, it sounds as though the train should have only needed 1,780 feet, and then the operator saw the signal came through that the train needed to stop when there was more than 2,000 feet left. And then the report said that the operator braked immediately and then also did an emergency brake process. My read of that is that it was a system problem and the operator was not at fault. Is that accurate?
At this time, and again, things change throughout an investigation as we collect more information, but our review of all the locomotive event recorder data, all the data we've received, and all the testing we've conducted indicates to us that the operator did not do anything wrong. I will say I have viewed the recorder, the inward-facing camera of the operator along with the team, and the inward-facing camera showed that the operator was in the position that he should have been in. According to CTA rules, CTA operating rules require their operators to be standing, including when there's a collision. The operator remained standing throughout, was very engaged, and looked to be in full control. I will say we had conducted some interviews, and he mentioned in those interviews that he was having some difficulty in stopping the train. We know from our review of event recorder data that the system that is designed to prevent or slow or stop wheel slippage was engaged the entire time. So that confirms some of the what he experienced during the operation of the train. So we don't believe that the operator at this time was in any way at fault or in any way at fault. What I will say is with respect to, let me clarify a little bit on the stopping distance. CTA's yellow line is designed, so the signal system is designed so that and configured to allow a stopping distance of 1,780 feet. If you took that yellow line today, let's say the yellow line didn't exist, and today you came in and put in a new yellow line, the stopping distance CTA would have to put in is 2,745 feet. That is how their signal system would need to be configured at this location, at the accident location. So a new line there would need a greater stopping distance. We know that today. So that begs the question of, okay, why was it 1,780 feet? Why not longer? Why wouldn't you expand to a signal prior to this? That's something we have to look at. We also have to look at the performance of the train itself.
Our next question is from Robert Kessler. Robert, we are allowing your microphone. When you unmute, could you please identify your outlet?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm with WGN Radio. So how old is this automated system that the CTA has, and would a newer system have possibly prevented this from happening?
So I don't have that information right now on when the automatic train control system was installed for CTA, but that's something that Sarah can follow up with you on, Robert, and provide anyone else if you need that information. Communications-based train control is the transit agency's version of PTC, or positive train control. Positive train control is a safer system versus ATC overall. Your train, you could do nothing, and as an operator, and your train would be designed to stop before a signal. You would not be able to run through a signal at all. It would catch you before you even got to the signal. It would know what was ahead, and it would take action even if the operator did not. That's the difference between ATC and PTC here, where you have a much more comprehensive and safer system.
But could something have failed within the system itself? Some kind of bug of some kind? Is that a possibility?
With PTC or ATC, or just in this one?
Whichever one CTA uses, I don't recall.
With their automatic train control system?
Yeah, I mean, things can mess up somehow.
Sure, things can. I will say that our team did testing of the signal system when they were out there and didn't identify anything at the time. However, since they are coming out again, they will look at the signal system again and look at everything, all the components of the system, and make sure that they are tested again.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We've got another question from Claire, who we got cut off early. And then after Claire, we'll have last question. So if you have a question, raise your hand. All right, Claire, your microphone has been enabled.
Thanks. So two things. Of the folks who are critically injured, are people still in the hospital? Are they doing okay now? Do you know anything about that?
Claire, that is not something I know their status of right now. It's usually Not something that we answer as the NTSB, but perhaps checking with local authorities that could help point you in the right direction.
Thanks. And to follow up on your answer for my earlier question, apologies that I'm not well versed in train systems. I'm still a little confused. So you're saying that they should have kind of planned for a longer stopping distance, and we know that now at that location than the 1,700 feet, like that wasn't enough?
So potentially, we don't want to give a firm conclusion yet because we have additional testing to do. What I will say is when CTA's transit system and trains were configured, it was quite a while ago. Operations change. And what the factors, there are a lot of factors that go into stopping distance, everything from, the speed of the train to the weight of the train, the length of the train, the track incline and decline, the track configuration, and then you're looking at environmental conditions on top of that. So that would be where some of the debris or organic material would come into play. And so those are all factors in stopping distance. So that is, over time, things change on a transit system. And so we're going to look at, was stopping distance something that CTA reevaluated over time? Did they look at their braking algorithms? Did they look at their signal configuration over time and testing? So that's something we will be looking at further.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we have one last question from Robert Kessler again. Robert, we've enabled your microphone. You can unmute and ask your question.
Maybe you've mentioned this already, but is it being looked into why that piece of snow equipment was even on the same track that the passenger train would be? It wasn't a snowy day or anything. Why were they even using the same track? There's tracks all over the place there. Is that being investigated?
Yeah, so the snow equipment itself, they were doing training for personnel in advance of the winter months. They were beginning to prepare for snow removal during that time and lead up to any sort of poor weather conditions. They're going to want to train the personnel and make sure they're adequately trained in the use of the snow equipment, and then also make sure that the snow equipment is running efficiently and as is intended. Given the design of the system, the operator itself had passed and seen the snow equipment on the track previously in one of his runs. And so folks knew it was there. That's not something unusual for transit agencies or freighter passenger railroads. What's important is that the system know it's there. And at the time, the reason why it was stopped was it had a red signal. So it couldn't move forward. It was waiting on the crew on the snow removal equipment was waiting for the signal to allow them to move forward on the track. And so that's why they were stopped. It's not something unusual, but you have to have a system that ensures safety. So that's something, that will be done in the future with snow equipment. So we want to make sure this doesn't happen again. And that's the whole purpose of our investigation.
All right, thank you, everyone. That was the last question. Thank you, Chair Homendy. This concludes the press conference.
Sure, thank you.